Mima had always believed that life had a rhythm, a predictable pattern. She grew up in a small town in Ohio where everyone knew each other's names, birthdays, and sometimes even secrets. Her childhood was filled with laughter and the warmth of family. Yet, as she approached her 20s, she began noticing cracks in the perfect world she had known. Asterisk her father.
Okay.
Once a jovial man who played the guitar every evening, started becoming distant. Her mother, always nurturing and caring, seemed anxious and restless. Emma could feel the tension at home, even if she didn't fully understand it. School was another story. She was bright, curious, and loved literature, but she often felt invisible among her classmates. She had friends, yes, but a lingering sense of being slightly apart from the world always stayed with her. Asterisk after high school. Emma moved to Chicago to attend university. The city was overwhelming at first: tall buildings, crowded streets, and constant noise, but it also felt liberating. She rented a small apartment near her college campus, painted the walls herself, and bought a tiny bookshelf to hold her favorite novels. It was her own space, her sanctuary. Yet moving away from home also meant confronting loneliness. Some nights she would lie awake, listening to the distant hum of the city. Wonder if she had made the right decision. Asterisk at university, Emma excelled academically. Professors admired her dedication, and she found joy in discussions about literature and philosophy. But social life remained tricky. She longed for deep connections, conversations that went beyond the superficial. Many students seemed focused on parties and appearances, and Emma often felt like an outsider. Asterisk one rainy afternoon. As she walked back from the library, she noticed a small cafe tucked away on a side street. It was warm, cozy, and smelled of fresh coffee and pastries. She went in and found a corner seat by the window. She spent hours there, reading, writing in her journal, and observing people. It became her refuge, a place where she could reflect on her life and emotions. Asterisk, it was in that cafe that she first noticed Daniel. He was sitting at a table across from hers, sketching in a notebook. His face was calm, focused, but there was a sadness in his eyes that drew her attention. Over the next few weeks, they exchanged small smiles, nods, and eventually words. Daniel was studying architecture, a passion that consumed him. Yet he too carried an invisible weight, a story he didn't share openly. Asterisk Emma and Daniel slowly became friends. They talked about books, art, and the small intricacies of life in the city. They shared coffee and stories, laughter, and sometimes silence. There was comfort in their presence, a feeling that someone understood the unspoken parts of each other. Asterisk one evening. Asterisk one leaves fell outside the cafe window, Emma confided in Daniel about her family. She spoke about the distance growing between her parents, her father's silence, and her mother's worry. Daniel listened without interrupting, and when she finished, he simply said, "Life is messy. But maybe the way we handle it makes the difference." His words struck her. They were simple, yet profound. As months passed, Emma began noticing the two sides of her own life, the one she showed to the world and the one she kept inside. Publicly, she was diligent, cheerful, and successful. Privately, she wrestled with doubt, fear, and longing. The dichotomy was exhausting, yet it also made her introspective. She started journaling more seriously, exploring her emotions, and writing short stories that reflected her inner struggles. Her connection with Daniel deepened. They shared vulnerable moments, dreams, and fears. Daniel spoke about his own family, his father's expectations, his mother's illness, and the pressure he felt to succeed. Through their friendship, Emma realized that everyone had hidden battles, that appearances were only half the story. Yet life had its complications. Emma received news that her father had been diagnosed with a serious illness. The certainty of life she had clung to shattered. She felt torn between staying in Chicago for her studies and returning home to support her family. The decision was agonizing. She wanted to be responsible, but she also feared leaving the life she had built, the friends she had found, and the city that had become her second home. One night, she sat by her apartment window, staring at the city lights, contemplating. Daniel called her and sensed her distress. He came over, and they sat together in silence. Finally, Emma spoke. "I feel like my life is splitting into two, what I need to do and what I want to do." Daniel held her hand and said, "Maybe life isn't about choosing one side. Maybe it's about learning to carry both." That night, Emma understood something essential. The two sides of life, the visible and invisible, joy and sorrow, duty and desire could coexist. She didn't have all the answers, but she felt a small sense of peace. She knew the journey ahead would be challenging, but she was no longer afraid to face it. Emma returned to Ohio the next morning, her heart heavy but resolute. The train ride was long, and as the cityscape of Chicago faded into small towns and farmland, she felt a mixture of nostalgia and apprehension. She had built a life in Chicago, but family needed her now more than ever. Her parents were relieved to see her. Her mother hugged her tightly, whispering, "We've missed you." Her father, frail and silent, gave a small nod, a quiet acknowledgement of her presence. The house that once felt like a warm, predictable haven now seemed fragile, as if time had etched cracks into its walls along with her father's illness. Emma quickly adjusted her routine to balance family care with her own needs. She accompanied her father to doctor's appointments, managed medication schedules, and tried to provide emotional support to her mother, who seemed to carry the weight of the world on her shoulders. Despite the challenges, Emma found a sense of purpose she hadn't experienced before. There was fulfillment in helping someone she loved, in being needed, even if it came with exhaustion and uncertainty. Daniel stayed in Chicago, but their connection remained strong through phone calls, video chats, and messages. He would check in daily, offering support, encouragement, and occasionally light-hearted jokes to lift her spirits. His presence, even at a distance, reminded her that she wasn't alone. Weeks turned into months. Emma's father's health fluctuated, sometimes improving slightly, only to decline again. Emma learned patience, resilience, and the power of quiet strength. She discovered that love often meant sacrifice. That true empathy required listening without judgment, and that hope could survive even in the most challenging circumstances. During this period, Emma also confronted her own emotional struggles. Loneliness in Chicago had been intense, but in Ohio, she faced a different kind of isolation. Her peers had moved on, many pursuing careers far away, and she was immersed in a world that felt smaller than her ambitions. She missed her friends, the cafe where she met Daniel, and the freedom she had in the city. Yet she slowly realized that her life wasn't about clinging to a single place. It was about embracing the moment and the responsibilities that came with it. One evening, as she sat beside her father reading aloud from one of his favorite novels, he spoke softly. "Emma, I've always admired your courage. You have a way of seeing the world that's rare." Emma's eyes welled up with tears. "I just want to help, Dad. I don't know if I'm doing enough." He took her hand and said, "Doing enough isn't measured by grand gestures. It's in the small things, the care, the love you give. That's what matters." Emma also realized that life had given her lessons she hadn't anticipated. She had thought moving to the city was the ultimate step toward independence. But returning home taught her that strength could be found in returning, in caring, and in connecting deeply with those who needed her. The two sides of her life, independent, ambitious Emma and the compassionate, responsible daughter, weren't opposing forces. They were complementary. During one of her visits to the local library, Emma came across a creative writing workshop. She decided to join, hoping to refine her writing skills and perhaps find a new way to express the emotions she had been carrying. The workshop introduced her to a diverse group of writers, each with their own struggles, fears, and dreams. Sharing her stories with them, listening to theirs, Emma felt a sense of belonging she hadn't realized she was missing. Daniel visited Ohio during the winter break. Seeing him again brought back the warmth and connection that had defined their friendship in Chicago. They spent long walks in the snow-covered park, shared quiet dinners, and talked late into the night about their dreams and fears. Emma felt a deeper bond with him now, one that had matured through distance, struggle, and shared vulnerability. One night, after a particularly long day at the hospital with her father, Emma sat by the fireplace, exhausted. Daniel noticed the fatigue in her eyes and asked gently, "Are you taking care of yourself too?" Emma laughed softly. "I forget sometimes. I'm so focused on everyone else that I forget I exist." Daniel held her hand and said, "You can't pour from an empty cup. Loving others also means loving yourself." These words resonated deeply. With Emma, she began carving out moments for herself, writing, walking in the woods behind her house, baking, and even visiting the cafe in Chicago during short trips. She realized that self-care wasn't selfish. It was essential. Balancing her responsibilities and personal growth became a guiding principle in her life. As spring approached, her father's health stabilized somewhat. Emma's mother regained her energy and optimism, and the household felt lighter. Emma herself had transformed through the experience. She was more patient, empathetic, and resilient. She had learned to navigate the dualities of life, joy and sorrow, independence and responsibility, love and loss. Emma and Daniel's relationship evolved naturally. They weren't just friends anymore. They were partners who understood each other deeply. They talked about the future not in terms of rigid plans, but possibilities, dreams, and shared visions. Emma no longer feared the unknown. She had discovered the strength to face it with courage and hope. One afternoon, sitting on the porch with a cup of tea, Emma reflected on the past year. Life had tested her in ways she couldn't have imagined, but those challenges had revealed her inner strength. She understood now that every person carries a story, often hidden beneath the surface, and that compassion, patience, and understanding could bridge the gap between the visible and invisible sides of life. Emma realized that her journey wasn't about choosing one side of her life over the other. It was about embracing both the responsibilities that grounded her and the dreams that lifted her. It was about recognizing the struggles that shaped her and the joys that sustained her. As the sun set over the small Ohio town, casting golden light over the fields, Emma felt a profound sense of peace. Life, with all its unpredictability, heartbreak, and beauty, had taught her resilience, empathy, and the power of connection. She was no longer the young woman who had left for Chicago seeking independence. She was Emma, fully aware of the two sides of her life. And ready to face whatever came next with courage and hope. Her father smiled at her from the living room window. Her mother's laughter echoed softly through the house, and Daniel's hand reached for hers. In that moment, Emma understood the truth she had been seeking. Life isn't about perfection. It's about love, balance, and the quiet strength to keep moving forward.